Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving us the opportunity to give this presentation. And just a very quick disclaimer. Neither Vasu or I are Buddhist scholars. We are firmly in the private sector. We work with practitioners, with executives of the private sector. That's really our mainstay. That means our presentation is almost always extremely simple. Simple to understand, rather short, to appeal to the very short attention span of executives these days. So with that, let me go on. This is, oops. Joel already showed this, the classical definition of sustainable development. We like, we like to simplify this further. Can we have the next slide, please? We simply define the sustainability as a set of conditions and trends in any given system that can thrive indefinitely. So we're not looking at 5 years, 10 years, we're looking at forever. And next slide, please. But most of all, it's not what an organization does with its profit, which is one of the major misunderstanding from the private sector, is not about what it does with its profit, but rather how it makes its profit, how it makes its money, and more importantly, how it impacts its various stakeholders. So that's really our starting point, our starting definition. And what really qualifies an organization to become sustainable? Reaching the so-called triple bottom line, people, planet, profit, or the 17 SDGs, whatever you might want to call the sustainable enterprise. You must always have a very strong foundation. A foundation built upon a clear purpose, clear values and culture, and leadership. Because, why is that so important? Because it's this purpose and mindset and values and culture that shapes everything. It is from this a vision, mission of an organization is formulated, a strategy put in place, and resulting in a pattern of behavior that results in the actual events and outcome that you actually see. Many times, especially in the private sector, all we look at are the outcome. Well, certainly that's way too late. We've got to look at the root of this whole thing. So we've come up with the why and how of sustainability. We must start from the purpose, the values, which in this case, in the case of Thailand, where the majority of the population are Buddhists, and which is really instilled and codified in the sufficiency economy philosophy, perhaps that is the starting point. How do we do this? We work through by engaging with stakeholders, and of course, in business, if we don't measure it, it doesn't get done. So we have to use various measures, whether it's the social progress index, it's gross national happiness, whether it's the social return on investment, etc., etc. And for what is the ideal? The ideal has already been defined for us, and it's been mentioned ad nauseum earlier today, the 17 SDGs. So as you can see, we're really starting point. The starting point is really from the, in the case of Thailand, in the case of the Buddhist sufficiency economy philosophy. And what is that sufficiency economy philosophy? It's been mentioned, but I'd like to repeat this again to give a little bit of a background. sufficient economy philosophy was really something that has been developed through practice, and practice especially of King Rama IX through his life's work. Is not from a theoretical perspective, it's really from field work, going around the country, helping the development of the country. And very clearly, this is from 1973, the year I was born, he made this speech, that development must proceed in stages. There must be a foundation. So it's very much focusing on a strong foundation. Like any building, any structure, you must have a strong foundation in order to build up and grow. And that's really a running theme. And at the height of Asian financial crisis, 1997, that actually started here in Thailand in mid-1997. And many people know the Asian financial crisis as the Tom Yam Goong crisis. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing for Thailand or not, and our national dish. But in any case, the king analyzes. Again, trying to find the cause and effect. Very much a central theme to Buddhism. That people were crazy about becoming a tiger, so a fast-growing economy, right? And he attributes this as the cause of that crisis. So essentially, greed above all else, reading between the lines. And actually, 20 years ago today, in fact, 4th of December 1998, at the height of the Asian financial crisis, he elaborated on, sorry. Okay. He elaborated on the sufficiency economy philosophy. He said that sufficiency is moderate. Being moderate does not mean to be strictly frugal. It's really moderate according to one's means. That means if I'm rich, I can spend. If I'm poor, I perhaps shouldn't spend. If I'm a rich country, I have far more than a developing country, perhaps. Therefore, this is actually something that's applicable to at every level and everyone. Oops. I'm having a really hard time with this, I'm sorry. He also elaborates further, because many people see the word sufficiency, they think of self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency almost means closing yourself off. But no, the sufficiency economy philosophy is really about responding to globalization, where borders are open, opportunities are endless. You're trading with people across the world. So, no, we're talking about something that is enough. Growth in the absence of enough and a strong foundation. We're not talking about not trading with anybody, closing your economy. And through from all these speeches, a bunch of technocrats, academics, led by the Crown Property Bureau and the National Economic and Development Board of Thailand codified this into just 4 simple paragraphs that instills the whole philosophy. And I'd like to spend some time to read through this because I think it's very important to the understanding. Also, sufficiency economy is an approach to life and conduct. Straight from Buddhism, life and conduct. Also, it stresses the middle path, the central theme, the real takeaway from Buddhism for laymen. And is really to respond and keep up with the world in the era of globalization. What happens in globalization? Opportunities abound, as well as risks. So many risks. So really one can see sufficiency economy philosophy as a risk management concept. Okay, and also sufficiency economy has 3 components: moderation, reasonableness, and the need for built-in resilience. Reasonableness reasonableness can be interpreted as a cause and effect. So really understanding, a deep understanding of the cause and effects and the linkages. So that's system thinking in the sustainability language and the sustainability world. Really the systems thinking. Right. And of course there must be some moral conditions. Oops. There must be commitment to knowledge, integrity, honesty, perseverance, tolerance, and wisdom. These are good traits and good values to hold in any individual. And let me skip, how long do I have, Joe? 10 minutes, okay, so I got to pass on to my colleagues. So let me very quickly run through we have one case, if this thing ever works. So in simple terms, for me, for the business community, sufficient economy philosophy, simplified even further, is you need to know what you're doing. You need to be honest and persevere, avoid extremes, taking the middle path, be sensible and insightful in making decisions, and lastly, build protection against shocks. So manage your risk. And it's been put into this, this graphic, and this is actually, for me personally, rather difficult to understand. So without the absence of reading the 4 passages, it could be a little bit difficult to interpret, but I keep it here for reference. Now, the case of, I want to give the case of the Siam Cement Group, which is Thailand's largest conglomerate, and a company that has stood the test of time, over 100 years old, founded in 1913, and has very strong core values. The core values are adherence to fairness, dedication to excellence, belief in the value of the individual, and the concerns for social responsibility. And it is a firm that is true to its values, very much so. But it ran into some problems. Back in the mid-90s, it was running 10 major business groups. It had over 100 subsidiaries, employed more than 36,000 people, and at the height of the crisis, had outstanding debt of over $6 billion US. And about 1 billion of that was in short-term debt. So at the height of the crisis, the debt was called. Had ongoing projects, about 30 ongoing projects needing investments of well over $5 billion. It was not going to survive, right? But through various approaches, in line with sufficient economy philosophy, they postponed, they canceled investments, they minimized their working capital. For the first time, SCG, Siam Cement Group, started thinking of exports. Previously, it was catering to domestic demand. Thailand was growing so fast, a lot of cement needed, right, to build. But now they need to hedge their bets, reduce their risk by looking at alternative other markets. And it built debt holders' confidence through their honesty, their integrity, which it held throughout. They began restructuring, and as this is the result. The result was continuous growth in revenue and profitability, and actually right now, I just looked it up, for 2017, its profits is standing at about 56 billion Thai baht. And right now, after the restructuring, it's down to just 3 business units. So focusing on its core instead of diversifying so much. So this is an example of a company that has followed the sufficient economy philosophy pretty much down to a T and pulled itself out of the crisis and remained very, very strong and continue to be even stronger as a result.